Hello and welcome, everyone. We'll begin our program momentarily. Just wanted to join all of you from across the country, from our many partners. The JCC, the Strom Jewish Community Center, welcomes all of you to Seattle, and we look forward to your questions in the chat. We will begin momentarily. Hello and welcome, everyone. So glad you could join us today. My name is Pamela Lavitt. I'm the Director of Arts and Ideas and Festivals at the Strom Jewish Community Center. I just want to welcome you to our virtual book fest in your living room, cooking demo and conversation with PBS star Pati Jinich in conversation with fellow cookbook author, dear friend, and food writer Adeena Sussman. This program has actually been in the works for almost 2 years. And in fact, it was probably soon after Adeena Sussman made it to our stage, and you can all watch her recording of her Sababa cookbook talk on our SJCC On Demand page. Pati and I were introduced through mutual friends, and I just can't thank her enough for her team for bringing this to fruition. Her cookbook is long overdue and will be released on November 23rd, excuse me. And I also just want to thank Adeena Sussman for her friendship and support and staying up so late in Israel to be part of this program. So before we begin, I just want to call your attention to a few other upcoming opportunities and programs. On January 29th, we are excited to have both SNL Originals, Saturday Night Live Originals, the legendary cast member Lorraine Newman and writer Alan Zweibel, a co-creator and writer of Curb Your Enthusiasm, will reunite to talk about their recent memoirs and touching upon their SNL days and comedy business and geniuses. On February 27th, we will host our first in-person chef-catered cooking demo and conversation on stage. So for those of you who are coming in virtually, we will probably live stream the event. So don't worry, you may not get to taste the food, but you can be in person, or you can join us when we invite Instagram star Jake Cohen about his award-winning book, Jewish Cookbook. That's Jewish is his cookbook. And if you don't know Jake, check him out on Instagram. I've been following him and I love making his recipes. So as many of you may know, November is Jewish Book Month. And thanks to the program partners, we are so thrilled to have such a great audience today. So in the chat, by the way, if you want to feel free to let us know what city you're Zooming in from, please do. And if you're affiliated with any of these partners, let us know. We welcome the Boulder JCC, the Consulate of Mexico in Seattle, the Consulado de Mexico in Seattle, Gordon JCC Nashville, the Jewish Community Center of Greater Ann Arbor, the Lewis Woke JCC of Greater Rochester, Middleman Jewish Community Center of Portland, the Pennsylvania Jewish Community Center of Foster City, the Roth Family JCC of Greater Orlando, Seattle Hadassah, Shaw JCC of Akron, Ohio, the Sidney Albert Albany JCC in New York, the Tucson J United Jewish Federation of Tidewater in Virginia Beach, and the Valley Jewish Community Center of Los Angeles. Many of these have current book fairs and book festivals going on for Jewish Book Month, so check out their websites. Today's program runs approximately 1 hour. You can enter your questions, please, in the Q&A, and that'll make it a lot easier for us to see and answer your questions at the end of the program. I also want to let you know that there'll be a thank you email going out to everyone with the promo code so that you can purchase copies of Treasures of the Mexican Table. The deadline will be Wednesday at the end of day for the promo code to be used. And now I just wanted to welcome our Consul General, Head Consul of the Mexico in Seattle. He's recorded a message specifically for this event, and it'll be followed by a trailer from La Frontera, which is Pati's new culinary travel special and her first primetime PBS show. And it began airing on October 15th. You can check out the episodes at pbs.org. So without further ado, I'm going to share those clips with you, and then we'll begin the program.
Hello, I'm Hector Ivan Godoy-Prisky. I'm the head consul of Mexico here in the state of Washington. Today I have the particular honor of being a part of this incredible project, and it truly permits us to express a little bit of what the diversity of Mexico is. Today we're going to be preparing some, or not me particularly, but we're going to be preparing some Jewish Mexican dishes. And we truly look forward to doing this, as this reflects how Mexico is a truly diverse nation that's made up of a mosaic of different cultures as well, that all make up one single nation. So thank you very much, and I look forward to being a part of this.
The idea of the border has profound meaning to me.
That's Texas. That's Mexico.
I was born and raised in Mexico, then moved to America, and I'm raising my family here. And I've spent my career traveling my homeland, sharing Mexican food and culture with the world.
Are you with me? I want to tell you things.
Now, I'm setting my sights directly on the place where my two beloved countries meet. I'm traveling the Texas-Mexico border, from far west Texas to the Gulf of Mexico, to get a taste of life in this truly unique place, where food, art, music, families, and traditions come together to create something that cannot exist anywhere else.
Welcome to South Texas. We're just starting.
Oh, yeah. Take me there. Take me there.
And now, without further ado, I'd like to introduce our special guest today, a conversation between these two fabulous women who are tastemakers and have incredible cookbooks, and I cannot recommend both of them enough. Pati Jinich is the Emmy-nominated star of the 3-time James Beard Award-winning PBS series, Pati's Mexican Table. In her third cookbook, Treasures of the Mexican Table, she brings together more than 150 iconic dishes that define the country's cuisine and its local and national and culinary treasures. She is also a treasure. She's been called the gastro diplomat of Mexico, probably because of her diplomat background. Please welcome star Pati Jinich. She is joined by Adeena Sussman, who is the author of Sababa, Fresh Sunny Flavors from My Israeli Kitchen, which was named Best Fall 2019 Cookbook by the New York Times, Bon Appetit, and Food and Wine. Exciting news, everyone. Adeena is currently working on a follow-up to Sababa about the foods of Shabbat, and I believe that that will be available in 2023. Sussman is also the co-author of 14 cookbooks, many collaborations, including Cravings and Cravings Hungry for More with Chrissy Teigen. Both are New York Times bestsellers. In 2018, she became a citizen of Israel, where she cooks and writes from the shadows of Tel Aviv's Carmel Market, which is where she's joining us from today. Please welcome Adeena Sussman.
Hello, Pati.
Hello, Adeena. I thank you so much, Pamela, for that lovely introduction. And yes, this program has been long in the making, and I am so thrilled that I'm here with you, Adeena, because I miss you so much.
I miss you too, and it's an honor. And from the minute you guys asked me to do this, I would jump at any opportunity to spend time with you virtually or in person. So I'm so happy to be here and to see you in your beautiful kitchen, which I have had the privilege of sitting in and tasting your food in person, but everyone's in for a real treat today. And let's get started. You want to tell everyone what you're making today and what's going to be happening?
Yes. Well, I want to tell you a little bit about what we're making today. We're doing a salsa matcha, and I think I chose this recipe for today because I think this recipe shines a light on just how rich, diverse, and just the breadth and depth of Mexican foods and ingredients, and how Mexico is much more than people think. So in my new cookbook, which I'm so excited because I've been working on this for like 4 years, and I have the advanced copy, but it comes out next week. I try to include classic recipes that are heirlooms, recipes that have stood the test of time, that have passed, from one generation to another, and that are beloved. It can be in a little town, a micro region, or a larger region, but that somehow they haven't crossed the border or they haven't crossed borders. And so many people know about tacos, and everybody seems to know about birria right now and carnitas. And with this book, I'm like, wait, here's another 150 things that you can make that will enrich your table. And salsa matcha is one of those. Even though I think salsa matcha has been getting a little bit more popular now, Here's a
Oh, does
photo of it.
matcha mean
Matcha.
nuts?
So
Or
matcha. So I love that you're asking me. Matcha actually is the feminine of the word macho. Macho is like
ah,
strong, manly. It can also mean very adventurous, courageous, or intense, but it's typically
uh-huh.
used in the male way, like it talks about
Okay.
men manly. And it's funny because this salsa called the salsa matcha is saying that this salsa is matcha. So a feminine way of
Uh-huh.
being macho. It's kind of if it's kind of I don't know. It's like a contradiction in itself, but I think it's like a
Uh-huh.
beautiful contradiction itself because also this salsa, I showed you the photo in the book, but this is one that I made a few
So
days
beautiful. This
ago.
book is
Oh,
gorgeous.
thank you. Well, this is the salsa matcha that we're making today, and I think it breaks myths and preconceptions about everything that you think about Mexico. This is a salsa, but it's not smooth, it's not silky, it's not runny, it's not pureed, it's chunky. Um, I like to describe this as a wet granola of sorts, and it can be used for savory, for sweet. But talking a little bit about the history of the salsa matcha, it's very connected to Jews and the Jewish community and its history in Mexico because salsa matcha comes from Veracruz. And I love that we added a little map here in my new cookbook. Veracruz is right here. It's this red, like thin state, which is like a mouth that opens onto the Gulf of Mexico. And through Veracruz is where most of the immigrant waves have come to the country historically. So the Spanish people, the Jews, most of the Jews came to Mexico through Veracruz. Africans, Syrians, Lebanese, Asians. So people usually think about Mexico as a combination between Old World and New World, meaning Spain and native Mexico. But people forget to include, and that includes us, Mexico, and the education that we're given in the schools. Mexico is made from many more immigrant waves than the Spanish people. And most of the Jews, including my grandparents, came to Mexico through Veracruz. So Veracruz is really a hub where the cuisine combines old world, new world. So the salsa matcha is typically made by adding olive oil over low heat, cooking peanuts, which came with the African waves into Mexico when Mexico was a colony of Spain, for 300 years.
Mm-hmm.
So it's olive oil, peanuts, dried chile chipotles, and sometimes sesame seeds and garlic. And then that's cooked in olive oil, and then you can use that in many ways. Some people like to chop it, some people like to grind it, but that's the traditional salsa matcha. As salsa matcha has become more and more popular, people start adding different kinds of chiles and nuts, throughout the country and outside of Mexico too. Here, I
And
made like
Patty, is
my
this
favorite. Yeah.
oh, sorry. Is this something that people keep on the counter, keep in the fridge? Is it something that you make and then just use up and make another batch? Or like, how is it, where does it fit into the Mexican sort of like physical kitchen?
You know what? It fits everywhere, Adeena. It fits everywhere because
Yeah.
the oil, which is absolutely delicious. I mean, look at the
Mm,
color of the oil. It's like
yeah.
almost brick color. The oil
Wow.
has the seasonings of the chiles and the nuts and the garlic. So you can use the oil as a seasoned oil, and then you can
Mm-hmm.
use. I think my favorite thing to use the salsa matcha for, I mean, just look at the beauty of these. I can have these like
Beautiful.
candy. I
Yeah.
like to make an avocado toast in the morning and top it with salsa
Mm-hmm.
matcha. But salsa
Mm.
matcha is typically eaten with quesadillas, with tacos, with carne asada, with sautéed or cooked fish. But the salsa matcha, you can put it in a yogurt parfait. A yogurt parfait. My English is terrible. So if you have any fresh fruit and add yogurt and then add salsa matcha,
Uh-huh.
it's delicious. Even ice cream.
I bet that sweet and savory thing is probably so good.
So good. So I don't know if people that are joining us are cooking along, but if you want, I can start throwing things in here
Yeah.
so you can see how
Yeah.
easy it is.
Now, does
Okay.
salsa is a catch-all for any condiment? Does it specifically mean sauce, or like what is the actual word in the lexicon of Mexican cooking? What is
Yeah.
salsa?
Salsa is any kind of mashed or mixed or pureed ingredients that include one kind of chili or another.
Okay, got it.
So I'm adding
Chili.
1 cup of olive oil.
Okay. Ooh.
So 1 cup of olive oil and a half a cup of vegetable oil. And here people can really play with their oils. I mean, this is a recipe that very much like the recipes you make. I'm such a fan of your food and your recipes, Adeena. And I feel like many of the things you make, like the things that come from Mexico and that I make, we give people a recipe. We give people the take on that dish that's our favorite and our tried and true and our tested. But then we give people the room to play. If you want to
Yes,
use this
totally.
formula, it's great. But if you for example, here I added some of my favorite nuts. So
Mhm.
you wait for the oil to heat, but you don't want it to be super duper hot. You want it to be like over medium heat because we're not going to fry these ingredients. We're going to simply transform them. And here's another thing that demystifies Mexican cooking. Many people think about Mexican cooking as deeply fried taquitos, overly
Yeah.
cheesy things, super spicy things. Here, we're using the oil in the most gentle of ways. It's merely transforming these ingredients.
And how common is olive oil in Mexican cooking? I think even that is going to be surprising to a lot of people.
I know. And wait, someone wants to say hi to you. Oh, yes, you do. Come over here, Juju. Te está esperando Adeena. Ven. Adeena, you
Hi,
want to say hi to Juju? No,
Juju.
come over here. Adeena
You
wants
guys, Patty's
and her
got
friends want to
4
say
sons.
too.
Hi, how are you?
Can you
Patty's
believe the
got
size? Can you believe the
no,
size?
no, I can't. I can't really. And the
Um,
age. Yeah, well, we'll talk about your kids, and I'm sure people are going to want to know what they're up to, and they're all very smart and interesting. So, but hi, Juju, nice to see you.
Adeena says hi, and she says he's nice to see you because he's not hearing because I have
Yeah,
my earphones. But I was going
yeah.
to say, olive oil. That I'm so happy you noted that because olive oil is really common in Mexican cooking.
Yeah,
In fact,
yeah.
in the Yucatan Peninsula, and it's not known as olive oil in the Yucatan Peninsula. They used to call it, and still today they call it aceite verde or green oil
Ah,
because when it's freshly pressed, it has that
yeah,
greenish
yeah,
hue. And the
yeah.
Spanish people who settled in the Yucatan, it was the oil that they used the most. So there's pockets in Mexico that use, just like in the Yucatan Peninsula, people use red onion more than white onion. In the Yucatan, they use olive oil more than other oils. And in
Mm-hmm.
Veracruz, which is this place where so many immigrants came through to
Yeah,
Mexico and many stayed, olive oil is predominant.
interesting. Okay. And you mix the 2 oils just because it's
I
better for
like,
cooking, and yeah.
well, because I don't like for one oil to overpower another. And
Yeah.
I feel like, but people are free to, if they love olive oil or one kind of oil, to use that one or mix. I've played with making a salsa matcha with olive oil, vegetable oil, and toasted sesame oil. And it adds a
Ooh.
delicious step. You can also do peanut oil and make it be more nutty. So people
I
can
thought,
totally
yeah.
play.
I thought I should mention avocado oil because Patty, we actually met for the first time in Mexico when you took me around avocado growing country, and we tasted some of the amazing avocado oil that was pressed in that region. Is that another option that you could use in something like this?
Of course. And you know what? You just reminded me. Remember we tried avocado honey?
Yes, I think about it often, and I can't. It was so intense and dark and beautiful. It had such an amazing flavor. Yeah.
Amazing. And I think that is something that's really hard for people to get because it's the flowers from avocado trees, and there's that
Yeah.
many, right? Okay, but wait, so
Yeah.
my oil is
Okay.
heating. I'm
Okay.
gonna add garlic. I have 6
Mm-hmm.
garlic cloves that I thinly sliced, and I'm just
Okay.
gonna add them here. I mean, salsa matcha you can make if you have your mise en place, if you have your ingredients out, you make these in less than 10 minutes. And
Mm-hmm.
then you have something in your fridge that, as you were asking, you can up anything. The avocado toast. If you have guests over and you want to do little baguette rounds with goat cheese and salsa matcha, if you want to do taquitos, if you want to do, oh, I just thought of something you will love. If you have halloumi cheese,
Ooh,
grill that, add
yum.
some salsa matcha, a little bit of honey. Okay, so wait, because this goes really fast.
Okay.
I added my garlic, and then I'm
Okay.
adding the nuts that I chose, which are walnuts, and the walnuts I just coarsely chopped.
Okay.
Um, and then I'm adding pine nuts because I'm obsessed with pine
I
nuts.
know.
I
Oh my
adore pine
gosh.
nuts, so I'm adding pine nuts, and
Okay.
I'm adding pistachios, and you can add the nuts whole or you can coarsely chop. So this is one example of how Mexican cooking really lets you completely customize. Like you want it large, do it large.
Yeah.
You want it chopped, do it chopped. So I'm using coarsely chopped pistachios, and then I'm adding.
Okay.
And I'm gonna pick up my computer when this is done because these look so beautiful. And then I'm adding chiles. You can choose your choice of chiles. Here I added anchos, which are, bittersweet. They have kind of a
Mm-hmm.
combination of a taste of prune and chocolate. They're barely spicy. And I remove the stems, remove the seeds, and just with scissors, you just snap them into little pieces. I'm adding that in here as well. And then
Okay.
for heat, I added like 4 to 5, and that's the recipe in the book, chiles de árbol. And this is something that I want people to know. You can play with your chiles, you can mix and match. You don't need to add only one. You can combine fresh and dried. You can do different dried. Like here, the ancho is sweet, it's chocolatey, it's pruny. The chile de árbol is smoky, feisty, rustic. So the same thing, cut into pieces, but here I am keeping the seeds. I love the seeds of the chile de árbol. And then
Okay.
I'm gonna raise the computer and show you how beautiful this is looking.
So if people wanted to avoid,
See?
wow, that looks amazing. It looks, so you keep everything in separate, are you going to stir it all now
I mean,
together?
I just because it looks so pretty, but I am gonna
Oh,
stir
it
it up.
looks
See how
gorgeous. So if you wanted to
so
use a milder chili, could you, I mean, chiles de árbol are sort of what most Americans get when they get chilies in the store, just like a hot chili, but could you do like a guajillo or like anything you wanted sort of to do something more mild,
absolutely.
or
Yeah,
even
yeah,
leave the
yeah.
chili out? No, you wouldn't leave the
Yeah.
chili out. Then it's not a
Well,
salsa.
so I wouldn't recommend to leave the chile out because it just gives it personality, but you can do a chile that has no heat. As you were saying, like the
Sure.
guajillo has barely any heat, or the
Yeah.
New Mexico chile has barely any heat. But I do think that a salsa, like the essence and the soul of
Uh-huh.
a salsa, um has one chile or another. And there's really
Yeah.
chiles that have no heat. Like the ancho has barely any heat. The guajillo barely any heat. The New
Yeah.
Mexico almost nothing. And you could do like here for this batch, I did
Yeah.
like 5 anchos and 5 chiles de árbol. You can do just one of something. But and here's
Sure.
another benefit of chiles. Chiles speed your metabolism. They open up your hunger and your appetite. They're packed with vitamin C and A. I mean, there's just so much beauty in chiles. And thinking about my grandparents, whom I'm leaving some garlic whole in some slice. My grandparents who came from Mexico on my father's side from Poland and on my mother's side from Austria and Czechoslovakia, they were used to no chile, nothing.
Yeah.
They got to Mexico and they really found a way to include chiles into so much of their eating and cooking. And
And into
And
their
they,
Jewish dishes even.
yes, exactly.
So tell people a little bit about that, because I think people are really interested in your family's Jewish heritage. You know, I wrote about you for Hadassah magazine like 5 years ago, and to this day, it's the most popular food column that I ever wrote.
Oh
It's
my gosh.
it's the most
Well,
read and most commented upon, and I think people really learned so much about sort of the rich history, Jewish history of immigrants to Mexico, and as I did. So maybe tell people a little bit about your
of
family and
course.
a little bit about Jewish history in Mexico.
Of course. And I really think, Adeena, that is just because of your beautiful writing. Um, but
No,
wait,
no, no,
so
no.
here I want to show you. So you can see the garlic, the chiles, the nuts. You can see a little bit of the sizzle. I turned it
Yeah.
off. And how many, I
Okay.
mean, it smells so delicious. And I'm just adding pumpkin seeds. I mean, this
So
is so healthy. I'm adding pumpkin seeds and I'm adding amaranth. I don't know if you can find amaranth in Israel. Can you?
yeah, sure.
Okay,
And
so amaranth,
yeah.
raw
Why
amaranth.
why do you add that? Is that for the texture or the health benefits
Yeah.
or
So yeah, because I wanted to do a many nut, many chile, many seed salsa matcha.
okay.
So you get, you get the nutty from the nuts, you get the flavor from the pumpkin seeds. It's just so
Yeah.
delightful. And the amaranth seeds, I mean, the crunch is just so delicious. Look at how beautiful it looks now.
I wish we had smell-o-vision, because I can just sort of imagine the aroma of roasted nuts are like my favorite thing in the world.
I
I
know
can
you
only
use that.
imagine
That's
how
why
good
I
it
knew
is.
when I had to choose a recipe to make with you, I knew. I thought Adina's gonna love this, and I can only imagine your take. You know, here's my challenge to you, Adina. I want to try
Okay.
your take on salsa matcha because I'm sure it's gonna be like no other. But wait,
Okay.
I'm adding. This is almost done. I'm adding
Okay.
apple cider vinegar, but you can use
Sure.
rice vinegar. In Mexico, the traditional thing is fruit-based vinegar, which is the vinegars that were used to,
Uh-huh.
people used to make them at home with like leftover
Yeah.
rind of pineapple or bananas, but you can use
Sure.
white vinegar. Here I used apple cider vinegar, and then
Oh,
Sammy made these for me when he was in high school.
wow.
Um, I know. My kids spoil me, and he made it with a lid, and so it's like perfect for my brown sugar because it
Wow.
never gets hard. I
Wow.
know. Okay, so I'm adding sugar, and you can decide how sweet you want your salsa matcha. I like it sweet, so I'm adding,
Yeah. The
this is
sweet
a
and
small
spicy.
tablespoon. Yeah, and then I'm adding some salt. Everything in my kitchen, and I know your kitchen is the same. I have so many stories like Sammy made these. Then
Yeah.
I have the salt in these beautiful
Uh-huh.
pottery burners,
Beautiful.
which I don't know if I told you, but I just went to Oaxaca with my sister Sharon like a couple weeks
Yeah.
ago. I
Yeah.
have to tell you about this trip. It was so incredible. This is a thing. It's handmade, and it's supposed to be for salsas. So this would be the
Oh.
perfect place to put a salsa
Uh-huh.
matcha. But I
Ah.
use
Okay.
so much salt in my kitchen that I decided to
Yeah.
use it for
Yeah.
salt. So I'm adding salt, and then just to say that this is it. Like this is the salsa matcha. You just let it cool. I had turned it off. You let it cool, and this looks incredibly beautiful. I'm going to show you one more
Sure.
time because now it's ready. And see,
So you put the pumpkin seeds and the amaranth in after you turned off the heat, because they just need like a gentle kind of roasting off of the heat, right?
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean they're so delicate that really they don't
Yeah.
need much cooking. And then you just let it cool. You could
Okay.
throw this in the food processor if you wanted a much more
Uh-huh.
brown salsa matcha, depending on what you
Oh,
want it for.
interesting. Uh-huh.
But I like it crazy chunky. So I
Yeah.
leave it in this thing. So I made this a few
Wow.
days ago. I mean, this is just
Yum.
so
It's
delicious.
kind of
So I
like,
mean,
you know how chili crunch is so trendy now, like David Chang with his chili crunch in the jar. This is kind of the Mexican chili crunch, it's got,
what is
the
chili
crunch.
crunch?
It's like a garlic and chilies and oil in a jar that you use as a condiment. It doesn't have the nuts, but it's kind of the same idea. And like this, I see this as sort of your version of this sort of nutty, spicy, crunchy condiment. I could see this on salads. I mean,
Exactly.
I would put this all over a salad.
Oh, on salad, that would be delicious. But I have to
Yeah.
tell you, I mean, salsa matcha people have been making salsa matcha in Mexico for 500 years.
Exactly.
That's the crazy thing. And that's one thing that I love about my new cookbook. And I was telling this to a lovely woman I was talking to. Her name's Sophia from LaFleur. I think it was a couple of weeks ago. And I was telling her how I really feel like cooking and food and dishes are the most communal thing. You know, we come to this earth and there are these recipes that are here already for us to enjoy and try. And then we leave, you know, and recipes are here to stay for the next generations. So I feel very lucky that that Mexican cuisine is part of what I inherited. And I just love finding these treasures and finding the most accessible, delicious ways to make them and then pass them on in the hopes that each and one of these recipes will be, you know, like kind of that brisket recipe that everybody passes around, or, you know, or the meatball recipe that everybody passes around. Like, I really feel like all of these recipes are recipes that have existed for so long, and that new iterations, you know, there's an evolution of each of these recipes, and then you make it your own. So that's why I can't wait to try your salsa matcha.
So how would you incorporate this into a Hanukkah menu? Like, I know Hanukkah's coming up. Like, where would you know?
So actually, I have another version of a salsa matcha, which is more in tune with the original Veracruz salsa matcha, and it uses dried chipotle chiles. And what I did this a few years ago when Hanukkah and Thanksgiving coincided very much, like they're gonna be in sync this year. And I made potato and sweet potato latka. I topped it with Mexican crema, with a little bit of lime zest and lime juice. And then I topped that with salsa matcha. And that's in my website, you guys, at patijinich.com. I have actually, Adeena, I made those latkes with sweet potato, and green apple. You know,
the green apple. Yes, I love putting a little apple in the latkes. It's really,
because I love the latkes with, you know how when I was growing up in my Bobby's house, they used to make she used to make the latkes, and then you needed to choose if you wanted them with sour cream or applesauce. And I always wanted both. So like, why are you limiting me to choose one? I want both. And so in those latkes that I made, I was like, okay, I'm gonna do the latke with the apple in it. So I will have it no matter what, and added the sweet potato for the Thanksgiving. And then the crema, but I used the Mexican crema. And then the salsa matcha on top. And it's delicious, Adeena, because you have the crispy latke, and people can do this with pot latkes. You know, your latkes, whatever cream, and salsa matcha on top. And it's that little extra thing that's not completely changing your latke experience, you know? But it's adding a little bit of flavor, which I think is great. It's pretty much like Thanksgiving. I feel like people want their turkey, they want the cranberry sauce, like they want the classic staples, but there's always that little room for a little bit of sazon, like a little bit of flavor. That's, you know, new.
So Patty, back to the Jewish connection. So Shoshana was asking, when did the biggest number of Jews come to Mexico? Like, were there a couple of different waves? I know there was one like back in the 1500s, and then like your grandparents from both sides, when did they come, and sort of how did they influence the local culture? But culinarily also, like, are there Jewish things that are sort of part of sort of like Mexican dishes that have become part of just general American culture? Are there any Jewish dishes that all Mexicans know and love?
Yeah, and that is such a great question. So there have been many Jewish migration waves into Mexico. So when the Spanish first arrived in the 1500s, that was the first round, and it was very small, and it was because the Jews were kicked out from Spain, with the Inquisition. So some Jews that wanted to flee or to run away, they came working with the Spanish who were, searching for new places, and some escaped in the boats, but most of the Jews that came then were conversos. They're also known as marranos. Like they hit their Jewish roots, because once the Spanish arrived in Mexico, and there was a Spanish colony for 300 years, they also established the Inquisition. So if you were a Jew, you couldn't exist. So so that was totally hid until the 1800s, when Mexico shook off its leash from Spain and became an independent country, and Benito Juárez became president. He believed that Mexico needed an influx of people from Europe so that they could come help with the economy and the political reforms needed. And he really wanted Jewish people to come, because he felt that Jewish thinkers and Jewish economists could help Mexico. And so he made an open invitation to European Jews to come to Mexico. And I think.
And is that when your grandparents came?
No, so that was a very small wave. It wasn't until the invitation matched the need that more Jews came, which is like when more Jews needed to flee.
Sure.
On my father's side, so on my father's side, the Polish grandparents came fleeing the pogroms. They were peasants in Poland, in tiny little shtetls, and their villages had been burnt down one too many times, and they were trying to come to the US, couldn't come to the US, and ended up in Mexico. And then Adeena wants to say hi. I just heard Danny come, and he adores you, so he's gonna come say hi. And then, so that was one wave. Adeena wants to say hi. And then, so it was the program wave is one. Estoy haciendo una clase.
Hello, Danny.
Hi, Adeena.
Hello. Say hello to the world. Everyone meet Patty's husband, Danny. He's wonderful, great host, and looking forward to seeing him as well the next time I come to Washington. He's the man behind Patita.
Yeah, well, that is exactly my claim to fame.
You have many of your own. Nice to see you.
So anyway, so we're talking about the Polish Jews. That was like at the turn of the 1900s. But then there was another wave of Jews with the dismemberment of the Ottoman Empire. And then there was another round of Jews that came with the First World War. And then there was a bigger wave of Jews with the Second World War and the Holocaust. And then there's been other waves, Argentinian Jews that have fled for other reasons. There have been some Israelis that have come to Mexico. So it's been like different waves. And I think that people get very surprised when they know that there is a Jewish community in Mexico. However, for the size of Jews in the world, there's like 50,000 Jews in Mexico, which I know it's it's a country of ¿cuántos millones hay en México, Dani? 120, 130. Is like 120 to 130. We need to do our, or we need to get updated in our information, but for like 120 to 130 million people, 50,000 I know sounds like a little, but it is a substantial community, and it's a community that has had a really good relationship with the country. Mexican Jews feel deeply Mexican and deeply rooted, and you can see in the food what a good combination the Jewish and the Mexican have been. And I always joke and say, you combine the elements of a Mexican mom with a Jewish mom and you get a bingo, We both like to overfeed people. We both like to super cook. We make our kids feel guilty if they don't eat what we put on their plates.
And
Anyway.
you've put it, you told me when I wrote about you a few years ago about some of the ways that Mexican food and Jewish food intersect. I know one example is putting chiles in matza balls. So maybe you could tell people about a couple of other examples, both from your own household and just other things that you are aware of.
Absolutely. So yeah, and I think you share that recipe in your article, and it's a recipe that I make time and again for the Jewish holidays. This smells
Yeah.
so good. This smells so good. So in Mexico, the Mexican Jewish gefilte fish is the Veracruz gefilte fish, which instead of being cold and in an aspic, it's cooked in a spiked tomato sauce that's thick and seasoned, and it has olives and capers
So
and
good.
pickled chiles, and you've made it in your photo. So beautiful. Then matzo ball soup is eaten very much like a dressed up Mexican soup. My friend Fanny Gerson, who you also know, like in her family and in her community in Mexico, they do the matzo ball soup in the chicken broth, and then they dress it with chopped cilantro, chopped onion, avocado, lime juice.
Mhm.
My side of the family and on my mother's side, they make it like I have it in my second cookbook in Mexican Today, which is matzo ball soup with spiced with nutmeg and parsley, and then that's cooked in chicken broth that sits on top of steamed mushrooms with jalapeno and cilantro.
Wow, that sounds
And it is so
insane.
delicious. But just like that, I mean, I could tell you hundreds of dishes. Like in Mexico, like the Lebanese and Syrian Jewish communities, they eat
Sure.
kipe, like fried kipe or kipe
Uh-huh.
charola, the baked
Yeah.
kipe with
Uh-huh.
guacamole and tahina sauce. Or like
Yum.
the kipe crudo, it's eaten with pico de gallo.
So you guys
Um,
keep she's talking about kibbeh, which is the crispy fried bulgur fritters that are filled with meat, or like a bulgur salad. So I think are those what you're talking about?
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And
Oh my
then there's
gosh, so
the
good.
tzimes, like the prune tzimes my grandmother used to make, and the
Yeah.
carrot tzimes, like those with chipotle in adobo sauce. It's just incredible. And to be
Mm.
honest, every time that I go back to Mexico, there's something new. There's new classics.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask you actually. So first of all, I wanted to talk about your book a little bit and La Frontera, your amazing new TV series. So growing up in Mexico City, I'm sure, with your Ashkenazi Jewish background, like, were you personally aware of the depth and the breadth of a variety of Mexican cooking, or was all of this an education for you too, and an adventure, once you became passionate about cooking? Like, what was your learning curve in the process? Because these recipes span so many genres and geographical areas. Mexico is so diverse, and I just wanted to know, like, what that was like for you. And it seems like every season of your show and every book that you do, even your own knowledge just expands exponentially. So
Yes, Adina, it's been so incredibly humbling. It's been such a fascinating journey because, I had no idea. I didn't know anything. I came from Mexico City, graduated with a political science degree, and I thought I
yeah,
knew my Mexico. I did a thesis on Mexican
sure,
federalism and studied the states, and I thought I knew, the differences
sure.
between the states and the regional differences. And it wasn't until I moved to the US and started meeting
Hmm.
Mexicans from the Mexican migrant community from all the different parts of Mexico, and hearing about at the supermarket. I would go and try to find Mexican ingredients because I was so nostalgic for my food.
Sure.
And would start to hear different accents in Spanish, and they would tell me, "Oh, I'm from Yucatan," and it was like a different accent. And then I'm from the north and
Yeah,
Sinaloa, and a different accent. And all these windows started opening, and I became
yeah,
so nostalgic and so fascinated. And the more I go back to Mexico, the more I realize how little I know and how little we Mexicans know of our richness and diversity from one region to another. The people from Yucatan
hmm,
don't know about the food from Sinaloa and Sonora. Like, there's so much to explore and so much to share. And even the same place, I went back to Jalisco for the latest season of Patty's Mexican Table. And I went back because I
yeah,
wanted to share, with my community of viewers the foods that I remember that I loved. And it's like you go to try one classic. Hello.
I have someone now. Now it's my turn for someone to say hello. Here's Jay. This is my husband.
Hey, Jay.
Say
How
hi
are
to Patty.
you?
Everyone, that's
So
Jay.
good to
So
see you, Jay.
we haven't seen each other in years, so we're taking this opportunity to have our husband
We
say
have
hello.
to
Okay.
thank the JCC. Our husbands can say now hi to each other.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt you, Patty. Go ahead.
No, so I was gonna say that, it's if I had another 150 years to live, I wouldn't even learn and explore like 10%. I'm sorry, that's me. That 10% of of the richness and depth of Mexican cooking. And now the same thing has happened with, you were asking me about La Frontera, where I went to try to bring the microphone to the borderland communities in the Texas, Mexico region. And there's Jewish communities in El Paso, there's Jewish communities, and it's like people just think about the border in terms of Texas and Mexico, but there's Jewish communities, there's Syrian, Lebanese, there's Asian, there's Cuban, there's Haitian. And what happens to food at the border, and talk about misconceptions and narrow labeling people and food. People just think about Tex-Mex as one Tex-Mex combo. It's just fascinating. And
does La Frontera focus on both the Mexican and the American sides of the border, or there are episodes on both sides, right?
Yeah. So these different from Patty's Mexican Table, which is now on its 10th season, and I go to a region of Mexico.
Congratulations. Amazing.
Thank you. I met you when I started, I think. La Frontera is not a half-hour cooking travel show. La Frontera is a docu-series that has 1-hour shows, and instead of living in the lifestyle space, it lives in the primetime space on PBS and Amazon Prime, and it's more journalistic. It's not in the kitchen, it's out in the field, and it focuses on both sides of the border. It's so fluid, it's fascinating. And for these, it was a 2-hour docu-series where we did from El Paso to Brownsville, so the Texas-Mexico border. But next year, the goal is to do the rest of the border. So start from where we left off and go from El Paso to Tijuana.
Okay. And
on both sides of the border, of course.
When did you start filming this border-centric show? Because it's such a loaded issue, these days. Did you feel like you had to sort of sidestep the political aspect, or do you touch on that in the series? And how was that for you? Because I know you generally try to be very, you just focus on the food. So it must have been a little different doing something that had a lot more
very different. Yeah. So, I've been working on these for years. I've been wanting to do these for like 5 or 6 years. I started pitching the idea like 4 years ago, and started researching and doing the interviews and visiting different parts of the border. And we got the green light last year, and we had to postpone the filming because of COVID until finally we were able to go in the end of May and June of this year. And I am not a political person, but I do love themes, and I really like substantial conversations. And I like, the more the time goes by, the more I want to do content that really has meaning, And so the lens is food, of course, and we have the conversations and have the experiences, and there's always food to be shared. But what I really tried to do in this series in La Frontera was to just bring the microphone to the borderland communities there and tell them, show me what's life here. Have a slice of the pie of what life is in La Frontera without a plan, without an agenda. If politics showed up, but it wasn't a political show at all.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I watched all the clips that I could watch from Israel today, and I can't wait to watch the whole thing. We only have a couple more minutes, but I just want to encourage everyone to watch, because there's a beautiful episode about art and murals that I was really taken with. And then I saw this incredible thing about these shaved ice desserts that contain things like pickles and condensed milk, but like you tasted and seem to enjoy. But it just, for all of you who are not so familiar with Pati, like she brings such love and warmth to everything she does. And when you watch her TV shows, like not only are you getting to know about Mexico, you're getting to know about Pati, and she's a very special, warm, bright, intelligent person. So I encourage you all to delve into all of her books and TV series, and everything that she's doing. And Pati's book comes out in a week. It's a Thanksgiving gift. It's a Hanukkah gift. There's all kinds of applications for this book. And a couple of questions from the chat. One, people want to know is, are you a professionally trained chef? And another person wants to know if perhaps your family might have had some secret Sephardic lineage of its own. So those were a couple of questions.
Okay, great question. So my Jewish lineage is 100% Ashkenazi, for sure. Eastern European, Polish peasants on one side, and then Austrian Czech on the other side. I am professionally trained. When I decided to quit political analysis, I enrolled in culinary school here in l'Académie de Cuisine in Gaithersburg. But instead of going to the restaurant route, I went to the teaching route. And the thing is that what they teach you in culinary school is not Mexican or Latin. So I did get, culinary chops, but most of what I've learned of Mexican cuisine and Latin cuisine has been out in the field, which is truly fabulous. But it's also shown me how, we need to include that in culinary schools and in all, cooking schools. There needs to be courses that focus, on different cuisines.
Yeah, I think what we share is that, I also went to culinary school, but I say that I'm a home cook, cooking for home cooks. And, that was always my goal. My end goal was to work from a home kitchen. And I think recipes that start out in a home kitchen are completely different from restaurant chef recipes. They have a different orientation. We're thinking about a little bit, maybe what's a little more practical, things we feed our families at home. And I personally cannot wait to cook from this book. I was flipping through it today. I see so many different things that I
Adeena,
would
you
want
have
to make.
to try the wedding mole with veal chops. Okay. You're gonna love that, but I know you're gonna love others too.
I will. Yeah, Jay loves mole, and he's always after me to make it. So I will make that a weekend project sometime very soon. I can't wait. And we have a couple more minutes. So tell people your 4 kids' names and their ages quickly, just because people are interested in your personal life as well.
Okay, so I have 3 boys, but I include Danny as a boy too. So you're right, it's 4. It's Julian, whose nickname is Juju, and he's 15. Then Samuel, who we all call Sammy, and he just turned 20. And then Alan just turned 22. And both Alan and Sammy are in college. Alan is a senior, Sammy is a freshman, Juju is in high school. My husband Daniel is my 4th boy, and he's the one that's gonna stay with me after they all go to college. And then we have a new dog. Her name is Mila, and we got her over a year. She's a pandemic dog. We got her. My boys broke me down because I didn't want to get a dog, and now I'm head over heels over this dog. It's ridiculous. I've become one of those people that I talk to her all day. I kiss her all day. I can't live without that dog.
Well, I think it's time to wrap up. And thank you, Pati, for giving me the opportunity to spend an hour with you. And thank you, everybody else, for joining this event. And I think Pamela is going to say goodbye.
I just want to say thank you so much to the both of you. What an incredible way to spend a Sunday. And now we can all spend the next few hours cooking and making salsa matcha. I just want to thank you both so much, and for your beautiful cookbooks, and for being with us today. Thank you all for being here, and for all of our partners. Have a great Sunday. Stay well, stay safe. And a link will be coming out to the cookbook, which you can purchase by Wednesday with us. Sorry about that, guys, but it'll be coming out in an email. Thank you, Pati Jinich, and thank you, Adeena
Thank
Sussman.
you.
Great to see you
Thank you,
both.
Bye,
guys. Have a
everyone.
wonderful rest of
Bye.
the Sunday. Adeena, I will see you soon.
Yes. Bye-bye.
Bye.